Hello, I'm Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the new Sin Dragons and Key Heroes that has just gone live in North America. So this is a jam-packed and exceptionally large event where there is a wonderful farmable component as well as rare machine component. And this video will be examining the rare machine component of this event. If you're looking for the Sacred or Cursed Keys review, it will be in a separate article and video. But what makes this event exciting is that it's going to be giving players the chance to roll numerous new cards, with the top rarity ones featuring 30 turn transformational requirements. Now, 30 turns to transform is obviously on the longer side, but to compensate for this, these cards are giving respectable base forms. Obviously not as strong as when they transform, but salvageable or workable enough that you don't have to scramble to find the 30 skill boosts needed to transform right away. You can do so at a future time. And of the new top rarity cards, several of them are tremendously powerful leaders. In addition to that, the 6 and 5 star Sin Dragon cards featured here will actually all have weapon assists, and weapon assists help provide more value for duplicates because you can utilize them in such a way that they will provide value when inherited, which also means they tend to last a little longer, so to speak, in terms of proofing themselves against future power creep. The main drawback with this event is that it is not a separate egg machine. It's actually all rolled into the regular rare egg machine. So it will cost 5 magic stones per roll, but you will be having a 50% chance to acquiring Pantheons, or like basically non-Sin Dragon cards, so to speak. Because if you look at the rolling pool total, it only adds up to 50%, which looks odd because the other 50% will be a rotating lineup of various Pantheons and X-Godfest exclusives. And if you are a newer player and you don't have many of these cards, in an ideal world, you try and line up a better lineup before you actually start rolling in here. And as a whole, each of these cards have value. I don't think there's any bad card in the Sin Dragon Key Heroes event, but the issue is, will you be able to actually roll and acquire them, which can be a little problematic. So there is no bottom rarity. Mostly it's 50% chance for Pantheons to appear. So there is also no monster exchange option. So one of the big drawbacks of this event is that 50% chance for those Pantheon cards. There is no monster exchange, so you have to roll these top rarity cards. If there was a monster exchange, I probably would have utilized it. And then there are also relatively poor rolling rates for the top rarity cards. It's a 1% chance for each of them, and some of them you want to have duplicates because they function better with an extra copy of them as a sub. So without further ado, let's take a look at the new 7-star cards. So all of the 7-star cards will actually feature 3 skill boosts and 1 skill bind resist in their base form. And that's important because this is workable. You can get by with this until you transform. It's not the end of the world. And the leader skill that's attached to these cards here is also respectable enough to get by for the first early floors, because you have 4 times health and then you have this massive amount of damage reduction when above 50% health. So you actually have the same amount of bulk, it's just your attack multiplier is much lower, and obviously the awakenings are less desirable. But once you do transform the Fire Key Hero, you will be blessed with an incredibly strong leader because they have 4 7 combos, which is 16 times personal damage. They have high base attack, so it obviously has synergy there. They have great weighted stats. They also have an incredibly powerful active skill because it's a 3-turn cooldown that gives you 1.5 times RCB, 1.5 times seconds orb movement time, and changes the whole board to fire, heart, and jammer orbs. Now, this is quite similar to Norza. You can't system this as easily as Norza, so to speak, because it's a 3 instead of 2-turn cooldown, but you can get by because the activation requirements for their leader skill are much gentler because all you have to do is be a fire attribute card, and if you are above 50% health, you have 35 or 57.75% damage reduction with dual leaders. And this is a distinct difference compared to previous leaders who needed to be above or below certain health thresholds, because only the damage reduction component cares about being above half health. Your attack multiplier has no implication whatsoever based on your health pool. Your attack multiplier, all it cares about is hitting 8 combos. Well, up to 8 combos. You have a scaling multiplier as you get higher and higher. So relatively easy to activate. All you need is 8 combos. There's no matching requirement, no pattern, nothing. Just 8 combos. And then your health, if you are below half health before you start matching orbs, but you manage to heal and get above half health on your turn, the opposing monster's attack will actually be reduced in damage, at least for the first, if it's a multi-hit ability, while you're still above half health, which is great because you can dip below half health, heal back up, and still retain that massive amount of damage reduction. And while you don't have any RCV multiplier, things like Amaterasu are more than enough healing solution to allow you to actually sustain yourself. And as a whole, this is one of the strongest leaders, despite the fact that they don't have bonus combo count or auto follow attack, partially because you get to abuse this wonderfully strong active skill, which does raise your RCV as well, amusingly. But it's the fact that you're so incredibly bulky and hard to kill, along with incredibly hard hitting. So a lot of these key heroes tend to be well focused on clearing Shura Realm, because Shura Realm doesn't have like as many resolve spawns. They have incredibly high effective amounts of health. So Gillian here can smash their way through. And as a whole, if you are fortunate enough to roll one, you have a bit more flexibility in team building, because you don't have to transform right away, unlike Dante Remu. You need to transform right away. This individual here does not have to. So if you are missing like things like, you can have more flexibility in your sub choices, because aside from a healing solution, you don't technically need to have any particular card on your team, I feel. So it does give you that flexibility. Sadly for the Penguin key hero, they are much weaker by comparison, mostly because they are a bit of an all or nothing style leader, in the sense that they have no effective health unless you match a heart cross. And the main issue with this is, before you transform, you don't have a way to really flood yourself with enough heart orbs to enable yourself to transform. So you're going to be quite vulnerable to large amounts of damage output. And that is the biggest problem, and which would have been one of the best assets for key heroes, is that they can survive in their base form. But the Penguin can't really. Like, you may have to asymmetrically pair, which can work, but even so, you are going to struggle to have enough effective health to survive at least the very beginning floors, which is the biggest drawback. And once they transform, they are obviously strong, but it's getting to that transformational state that is problematic. But once they do transform, their active skill provides you with a column of heart orbs, locking heart and light, or heart and water orbs, I should say, increasing in combo count by 1. So helping overcome the combo hungriness of heart crosses. But their leader skill is a massive damage multiplier and huge amounts of damage reduction, assuming you actually can make a heart cross every turn. Because their leader skills will give you +1 combo with 3 or more colors, then 1 million auto follow attack damage with 3 or more colors, and then big attack multiplier with huge damage reduction when matching a heart cross. So it is definitely possible to clear content with them, but I feel like they require much more effort to succeed. And obviously, if you play in co-op, you'll help alleviate some of these problems, because you will have more skill boosts and you will have more active skills available to basically help yourself survive these 30 turns until you can transform. But that is what I feel the biggest drawback, because compared to Gillian, they can sustain themselves quite easily in their base form without like external help, and that is the main drawback of the Penguin. Another thing you could potentially do is, if you have Norzas as subs, you technically could use kind of like a Norza system. Of course, that's kind of luxurious, but it could work to help bridge the gap for having enough heart orbs present at all times. For the next key hero of Emily and Linnea, they are strong, but I feel like they have a few shortcomings. So they still feature the same nice 3 skill boosts, skill bind, resist, and their leader skill gives you flat health, which is always nice for attacker and healer types. And then you get damage reduction matching 5 or more colors. And it's these 5 or more colors that are problematic, because that is carried over into their transform leader skill. Because once they transform, they still retain the same effective health multipliers. Their damage obviously goes up, but you still have to match 5 or more colors for your damage reduction and for your attack multiplier. And the biggest issue of that is, you're not going to have 5 colors all the time, especially on 6x5 boards. And that was the biggest drawback of Rainbow teams of the past, inconsistency. But nowadays, most Rainbow leaders activate from any 4 colors, which is doable on the vast majority of boards. And that is going to be her largest drawback. If you don't have all 5 colors, you won't hit the damage reduction or your damage multiplier, and you will perish. So to overcome this, we could asymmetrically pair them. Because they require healer and attacker types for their leader skill, you could pair with Fasca, because Fasca only wants attacker types, and with the bigger 7x6 board, you will have a much steadier flow of your 5 colors present, because the whole key is hit 5 colors, get the damage reduction, and you don't die. And amusingly enough, with the Fasca pairing, you still have 2.25 times health. You have 62.5% damage reduction, pretty close to 75%. So you lose a bit of effective health. You lose a bit on your attack multiplier, but that's hopefully going to be compensated somewhat by the fact that you could activate every turn with more combos, and you have vastly more RCV, so healing should never be an issue. The main drawback with obviously pairing a Fasca is that 7x6 is currently more punished compared to other 6x5 options, because Arena 4, Sure Realm, they do have mechanics that do provide some sort of punishing mechanic for people who utilize the larger board. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But at the same time, you can definitely waltz through the vast majority of content with fast good pairing as well at the same time. And I feel like pairing with getting the 7x6 board will be the best way to improve consistency. In terms of the active skill that is granted through their transform state, it's kind of like a little REM in the sense that it provides you with 2 orbs that rotate for 2 turns. So you can overwrite other spinners, but it's nowhere near as efficient by comparison because you get 2 random spinners and you don't have the extra amount of orb movement time to manipulate them into place. Next is the best doggo of all time that has the same 3 skill boost and skill bind resist before they transform, and they feature a healthy 4 times health, 4 times recovery just for existing. There's no like matching requirements, and while also being immune to poison orb matching effects. Once they transform, their multiplier just jumps up to 400 times, and they become an incredibly powerful leader who can system themselves. And when I say system, it means that you utilize one of these cards as a sub. And when they're used as a sub with 2 leaders, you have access to 3 of these active skills on a 3-turn cooldown. And this active skill provides you 3 times attack for light attributes for a single turn and creates a row of light orbs. And then it will lock light orbs so you can overcome spinners in that regards. But because you can use an active skill every single turn, which in turn will generate your orbs all the time you need for activation, you technically have an effective leader skill of 1200, which is absurdly high. Like hitting damage cap with Ferru is going to be reasonably common, especially when you form that VDP, because their leader skill needs you to match 6 or more connected light orbs, but you also get +2 combos or +4 with dual leaders. So you make a row of light at the bottom. If you have 3 other light orbs spaced around, you can group them together as a VDP. You get the bonus combos. You're going to hit those 7 combo threshold. You have 1200 times multiplier. You have 2 VDPs, 2 7 combos. You're going to be dealing tremendous amounts of damage output with relatively little effort. And that is going to be their best shining aspect. They do so much damage, they have great amount of bulk, and the biggest risk, so to speak, is gravity-based hits. So you need to obviously bring some sort of shield if the gravities exceed 100% of your health, or even utilizing damage reduction possibly throughout to tank various hits. But the point of the matter is they can create a powerful self-sustaining system, so to speak, and even a row match might do enough damage to kill the vast majority of spawns. Like, I'm thinking of like Sure Realm applications, but for the vast majority of other dungeons, a row is probably going to kill everything anyways because you have a 1200 times multiplier and you're going to be tapping into those 7 combos anyways. So lots of flexibility here, but the biggest drawback is in an ideal world, you have to roll 2 of them to keep that beautiful system always intact because it's relatively mindless as a whole. And another drawback of utilizing any type of system is that your active skill diversity does go down. 3 of your 6 active skill slots, so to speak, are taken up by this powerful active skill. But at the same time, you can definitely waltz through wonderful amounts of content. Yux is somewhat similar to Ferrule in the sense that they can be systemed as well, but it may not necessarily be as mandatory, but I think it's still strong. So the same triple skill boost, skill bind resist in their base form. Their leader skill gives you 4 times health, which is nice. And then you gain damage reduction when below half health. So that's going to be a bit of juggling. If you're at 51% health, you have less effective health than if you were at 49% health. Kind of a weird idea. So the biggest issue with them is you have to find a way to manage and cut your own health and stay within this below 50% health threshold in order to truly maximize your output. This is where like things like Team Health Awakenings or just cards with larger amounts of health play a more meaningful role. But you still want to have a healing solution because you are going to be taking damage anyways, and you need to be able to restore your health in such a way that you can survive incoming damage. And their leader skill requires you to match 2 plus dark combos, which is a little bit annoying, but you do get the damage reduction when you match 2 dark combos. So you can be above half health, and you still get your auto follow attack, but your damage output is going to be vastly inferior because when you do transform, your multipliers are huge. You have tremendous damage output, and you don't even need to match many combos because with their new transform active skill, they get 6 dark orbs and then a bit of damage reduction. So that can be a way for you to help manage your health if you just push yourself above the threshold you didn't want to be, or even just layering it in addition to your damage reduction can prevent you dying. You can tank tremendous amounts of damage as well. And you have 4 attack roll above 50%, which means 16 times personal damage, and you're just going to be creating dark orbs on a regular basis. So you don't even need to match that many combos because you have this auto follow attack damage, you have a massive attack multiplier. 625 times is huge, as well as 4 attack below 50%. If you match that VDP, things will die. But matching a VDP does have a bit of an opportunity cost because you need to match 2 dark combos for your multiplier. So you need 12 instead of 6 dark orbs. But at the same time, if you have enough of this orb generator, you are making 6 dark orbs every single turn. And because your damage reduction doesn't care about what orbs you match, you could even just match like 1 combo, tank a hit because you have damage reduction, you have the 35% from the reactive plus the 57.75%, and then use another Yux and then easily make your VDP with another dark combo. Combo count doesn't really matter because you don't have any 7 combos anyways. And you can deal explosive amounts of damage. Similar idea to Ferrul, you can do tremendous amounts of damage with the right setup. But the biggest issue is you have to juggle and manage your health. So I feel like the key to playing this leader here is that whatever healing solution you do use, you need to test out how much health you do restore with every 4 heart match. Are you going to be healing exceptionally high amounts, so therefore you should make minimal amounts of combos, or is your healing output not that great so you can match many combos while still staying below 50% health? Conversely, other things you could potentially utilize are things like Zerod Core to keep managing your health. A 1-turn cooldown to cut your health can be meaningful in those regards, but the point of the matter is if you can juggle your health, you deal stupendously high amounts of damage while enjoying large amounts of effective health through their active and leader skill. So all those cards had a 1% chance to be rolled, and they're unable to be monster exchanged for, which is why you have to roll so many times if you want to acquire these cards. But for the 6 and 5-star cards, they all come out in their weapon assist form to start, and then they will have the ability to assume a reincarnated evolution, which is permanent but does confer many benefits. Because as a reincarnated card, you can have 8 instead of 6 latent slots, which is always helpful. So the first is Envy, and Envy provides full bind immunity, 4 enhanced water orbs, along with Void, Damage, Void, and a 4 elemental board changer. So Void, Damage, Void allows you to overcome Void mechanics or the Gray Shield. Basically, Void mechanics are nowhere near as dangerous as Absorption mechanics because your progress is not lost. And at this point in time, I feel that Void, Damage, Void is not as helpful as it used to be because we have the VDP latent. We also have many other cards that have relatively short cooldowns for Void, Damage, Void. So a 25-turn cooldown is quite costly. Yes, it is 2 turns, but at the same time, do we need to have that? And another thing that I find problematic with this weapon assist is that it has 4 enhanced water orbs, which obviously makes it so water teams are benefiting. But at the same time, this active skill probably won't help mono water teams that much because when you think about it, mono water teams should have enough VDP solutions anyway, so the active becomes kind of moot. I guess you can argue that it is a longer base cooldown, so it doesn't run the risk of accidentally charging up, but at the same time, it's still an active skill that's not necessarily nice when it does charge up. So we don't need necessarily ways to solve Void, Damage, Void. So I feel like this weapon assist would mostly be used as a way to add in passive damage for mono water teams, while also conferring full bind immunity. For their evolved and reincarnated form, if you are going to make the evolved form, you probably want to make the reincarnated form unless you want to revert back to the weapon assist for like a short-term solution. But in the reincarnated form, they have 5 skill boosts as well as super blind resist as well as triple 7 combo. But the main drawback of this card here is that same active skill. I am not that happy with that active skill on a sub. It's fine as a weapon assist because it doesn't have to charge up, but as a sub, you're going to wait 25 turns and the effect is not that high impact. It's a 4 elemental board changer with hearts, so rainbow teams can't even utilize it because most rainbow teams need 4 colors, so that's problematic. And you're just going to be carrying a relative dead active skill for the whole dungeon, which I find not so appealing. But at the same time, you do have solid amounts of personal damage, you have 5 skill boosts, and super blind resist. So if you can work around this active skill shortcoming, I feel like they can function as a reasonably strong sub, and their leader skill is reasonable as well. They give fixed 9 seconds movement time, so any time debuffs you can completely ignore. No awakening dungeons, you can ignore that as well because instead of being at 5 fixed seconds, you have 9 fixed seconds. Wonderful solution overall, but you obviously have to match 4 more colors or 3 plus heals, so easy enough to do as a whole. For Sloth, Sloth's main appeal is their active skill because Sloth's active skill creates a full rainbow board while also unlocking orbs. It will also fully remove all fully remove all awoken skill binds and fully clear all unable to match orb effects. So 3 tremendously powerful components in one active skill. And in theory, there's no real drawback to this active skill because when you think about it, every component will at least be useful, especially for rainbow teams. But even monocolored teams are not going to be truly upset by rainbow board changer. There's a chance it might spawn enough orbs, but at the very least, it will give you at least one of each color in hearts, which might in turn trigger whatever activation requirements you might have. Point of the matter is, it's a wonderfully strong active skill. In addition to that, it also includes 40% blind and 40% poison resist and full bind immunity. So a lot of wonderful things going on in this weapon assist at the same time. And the key to making it truly shine is taking advantage of these 40% resist with other 20% resist to meet that 100%. Because if you end up just slapping on like super blind or super poison, it kind of wastes those awakenings, so to speak. But at the same time, it's still a high value weapon assist anyways, that missing out on some of those awakenings won't be the end of the world. But in their evolved form, they are able to function as a tremendously powerful sub because they retain that same powerful active skill, but they have skill charge, which means it could be a 7-turn cooldown. So this is a wonderful solution for like mechanic heavy dungeons. You have access to powerful awoken bind clearing and full unable to match orb clearing on a potentially quick 7-turn cooldown. And at the same time, they have a large RCV stat. They have modest amounts of other stats, but it's really their RCV that's high. But you have 4 skill boosts, and you potentially have actually sizable personal damage because you have a 10 combo or a 7 combo or a jammer, super jammer resist, super waking. So depending on what you need for your team, you can add extra damage, but their low attack stat does kind of hinder it. Or you could have super jammer resist, like flexibility galore here. And as a whole, I'm quite excited about this card because they are offering a lot of different value. And at least for myself, I don't have the best options for removing unable to match orb effects. And through their weapon assist or their evolved form, it will grant at least my monster box more options. For Greed provides you with full bind immunity and 60% poison resist, along with the ability to bypass damage absorb and attribute absorb effects, while also having 1 turn of haste. So even if you can't fully capitalize on these awakenings, it still has a tremendously powerful active skill because damage absorb, attribute absorb become problematic in higher end content, and the haste obviously is never a bad thing. But the main issue is it technically is surpassed by other options out there. Like if you have every card in the game or a tremendously deep monster box, you will have better solutions for single turn damage or single turn attribute absorb effects. But if you have a modestly average monster box, you're probably going to gain more value out of Greed because you may not have things like Persona's TV, who tends to be one of the better low cooldown fusion style active skills. But as a whole, I would not be unhappy with this weapon assist. And if you do play lots of solo mode, their reincarnated form actually has merits because it has 3 dungeon boost awakenings. And 3 dungeon boost awakenings, well, one dungeon boost awakening provides you with plus 2% experience, coins, egg drop rates, and monster experience. And they stack additively. So you have 6% with one of these subs or one of these cards, and obviously it jumps up higher and higher the more you add onto your team. And where this is applicable is obviously if you're trying to get a bit more experience out of experience of a lifetimes, but the main application is for farming low difficulty event dungeons for the event metal drops or crystal drops, whatever they're called for that respective event. Because by playing a lower stamina difficulty, you obviously save your stamina, but if you can ensure that you have a full drop rate anyways, you're going to have a better time because not only can the dungeon possibly be buttoned through and thus faster to clear, but you're saving your stamina and saving your sanity because it's super easy to play through at this point in time. So having multiple of these greedy cards, so to speak, is beneficial, especially if you're playing by yourself for the event metal farming, because you pair with, you utilize leaders such as Varroa to increase that drop rate even more, and you're probably going to get a drop on every single floor, which makes life much easier. For Wrath, their weapon assist provides you with a skill boost and 3 dark rows. Now, a single skill boost is always going to be helpful, but at least with their active skill, if it does charge up, they have tremendous value because they fully remove all bind and awoken skill binds. So a useful active right there, as well as 3 turns of 3 times burst for fire and dark. So this charging up is going to have at least one component being valuable. Like a burst is not really going to be truly bad because you want to be able to overcome those final floors, and it's lasting for 3 turns, and fully removing all bind and awoken binds is beautiful. So as a whole, this is a wonderful weapon assist for mono dark teams because you provide the skill boost you need for transforming, you have the passive damage, and you have a strong active skill. And the main drawback is that it competes with its reincarnated form, so to speak. But I feel like the weapon assist is probably going to be stronger. But in their reincarnated form, they either have 3 or 5 skill boosts depending on the super awakenings pursued. But if you choose the 3 skill boost route, you'll have super blind resist. So pretty valuable sub as a whole, who also has tremendous personal damage. They have they have double 7 combo, double VDP, and an L unlock, which is just useful utility, but wonderfully high base attack, as well as that strong active skill. But the main drawback is their Super Awakenings, you want both of them. And without having both of them, they are still a strong damage solution card, but I feel that they are outpaced or outclassed by other options available. Like, they're not going to be the best at any one particular metric. So again, if you're a player with a tremendously deep monster box, you won't necessarily gain as much value, because if you need a skill boost solution, 5 is nice, Ala2 is 7 with a super poison resist, as well as respectable damage output. If you needed a damage solution, well, Yux obviously outpaces them easily. And if you needed a sub option that gives Awoken Bind clearing, like the non-transforming Yugi will function better as an Awoken Bind clear solution. So it's not to say that they are weak, it's just that I feel that they are outpaced by other options if you do have those, so to speak. But again, if you do roll Wrath, you can just simply keep it as their weapon assist, which is always going to be helpful, I feel, for the long term moving forward. Now we come to the 5-star base cards, and they follow the same pattern of weapon assist to start, and then they have a reincarnated form at the end. So for Lust, Lust has that wonderful active skill that provides 4 times attack and 4 times orb movement time, along with 2 turns of haste. So you can abuse that 2 turns of haste for 2 effective skill boosts. And if you don't, well, it's just still a nice burst for the end of the dungeon, and it gives tape, resist, and a finger. But I honestly feel that their key form of this weapon assist, like they share the same active skill, it tends to be stronger because it provides a skill boost. So if you don't feel like this tape resist weapon is going to provide enough value, you can pursue their other form. But at the same time, I feel that it's going to be mostly just a glorified skill boost stick until you find spicier options, because it's 5 skill boosts with a bit of damage and possibly cloud resist. But at the same time, you can farm Whaledor and Raziel, who both have 5 turn cooldowns, they have 5 skill boosts and much shorter base cooldowns than 12, because if you're utilizing this individual here for farming, Raziel Whaledor will probably be better because they have a lower base cooldown. They can take and inherit much more easily. And if you're playing through like arena style content, well, he is not transforming. You're going to be stuck with a card with lots of skill boosts that's not providing much else otherwise. So yes, they could have 7 effective skill boosts, but they're not providing much else for the dungeon otherwise. At the same time, if you needed 7 effective skill boosts, throw them on your team and go on your merry way. You may have more than enough to overcome the dungeon anyways, because it depends on really what you play. But I feel that if you had things like Duval, I would use Duval over Barius every single time, because Duval transforms and gets rid of those skill boosts and has a fast charging, powerful active skill in the end. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what you need in terms of which form you pursue. For Pride, the value of Pride, I feel, will hinge on whether or not you owned Magic Lens or not, as well as how important ranking dungeons are for you. Because Pride's active skill provides you with a board unlock and then changes the whole board to 15 light and 15 heart orbs. So on a 6x5 board, that is a perfect 10 combo solve that is easy to do. And the benefit of that is you can abuse the way ranking dungeons award points, because ranking dungeons award more points for faster clears as well as higher combo count. And this active skill does both. It's easy to solve a perfect 10 combo board because you know what the end pattern is going to look like. And use this in conjunction with a forced 4-color or 4-elemental Skyfall active skill, because you fully cleared the board of 30 orbs and then 30 new ones fall down of 4 specific elements, which in turn gives you a much higher chance of a Skyfall occurring. It's the most efficient way to add points into a ranking dungeon where combos tend to be the most valuable strategy to pursue. So the value of this weapon assist really comes down to, did you own Magic Lens beforehand? If you did own Magic Lens, it's a little less valuable because you already have something relatively equivalent. But at the same time, with the hard orb spawning, it creates less pings, so that in turn might solve some of your problems, as well as the board unlock possibly being helpful if a board was locked to start with. If you find that weapon assist unhelpful and you want to just utilize them as a sub right away, they're going to be providing that same active skill with 4 skill boosts, as well as VDP and super follow-up attack. And the VDP plus super follow-up attack means you can cheese out even more points because super follow-up attack and VDP awards style points. So in theory, if you wanted to, you could have that 10-10 board, like 15-15 board, and you can solve it for 6 combos and get the style points. Not a bad idea overall if the ranking dungeon favors style points or just like fast, like less combos, so to speak, because it's a longer dungeon and you need to overcome something with resolve or void. Point of the matter is you have flexibility with pride. So I feel like pride has mostly the value for ranking dungeons, maybe certain farming builds. So it all comes down to how important is that to your individual monster box end goals. For Gluttony, I think Gluttony is quite powerful because Gluttony provides you with this attack while below 50% awakening and 2 enhanced dark orbs. And at the same time, their active skill provides you with a cuts your health by 50% and changes all orbs to water and dark orbs. So if you're someone who likes to farm content with things like Shivnia or Lu Bu, this weapon assist will be truly magical because it provides your damage dealing cards with even more damage, passive damage for every other card, and an active skill that fulfills your leader skill requirements of being below 50% health, or at least your offensive awakenings, while also providing a board that has only water and only dark orbs, so that you can't accidentally heal unless a Skyfall comes down. Provides you great flexibility, and at least for Shivnia, you don't need to have as many skill boosts, so you don't need to worry about using Hera Luna's weapon assist all the time. You can utilize this one for a bit more passive damage as well, or just on your other cards. So it obviously has most applications for any mono dark team who likes to be below 50% health. Yux teams could benefit from this, but Yux teams probably need a bit more utility than what's offered here because it's only for offensive purposes. For their reincarnated form, they have 4 skill boosts and 3 attack while below 50%. But the problem is their base attack is quite low, and I feel like they're not going to necessarily surpass things like Lucifer's on your mono dark farming teams because Lucifer's have better stats overall. But at the same time, if you need an active skill that cuts your health and does not make hard orbs, it can be meaningful. But I feel that their weapon assist provides the most value overall. So, do I plan to roll and dream rolls? As a whole, I do plan to roll, not only because we got 150 stones for free, but because this event does feature numerous cards that cannot be replicated elsewhere. If I do acquire any of the top rarity cards, I'll be obviously tremendously excited because it will open up new possibilities for playing through hard content. And for my Dream 7-star card, I feel that Gillion will be the best for my monster box because I'm not necessarily the luckiest individual rolling. And realistically speaking, I would need like 2 Ferrurus and probably 2 Yucks to truly shine. Whereas I need only 1 Gillion. I don't think I'm going to be rolling that lucky. It's 1% chance. I don't think I'm going to get 1% twice. So the point is, if I have him, I can form a strong mono fire team. And I don't need to have Duval. I think Duval will help for sure. But it's not like Dante Remu where Duval was somewhat mandatory to a certain extent because he provides so much and you have to transform right away. Gillion does not have to transform right away, which gives me much more flexibility for my team building as a whole. For my 6-star cards, I feel that Sloth will be the best because Sloth's active skill provides that wonderful full Awoken Mind and full unable to match orb effect clear, while also providing a guard break through their weapon assist or a powerful rainbow-oriented sub. I'm not sure which form I would utilize for my monster box, but if I were to roll a 6-star card, I would want to have Sloth. For my Dream 5-star cards, Pride could have been a possible contender for that 15 Heart, 15 Light board, but I feel like I might just get by with the key heroes, this Cursed Key potentially, or I do have Magic Lens, so it's not as magical for myself. So with that in mind, I feel like Gluttony might give me a bit more value because it just can make any mono dark farming team significantly stronger. New dungeons might open up possibilities where that active skill is more beneficial compared to just relying on Lucifer's only. Again, these dream cards are just what I feel would help my own individual monster box. What I think is important for myself may not necessarily be helpful to you. So, in conclusion, the Sin Dragon and Key Heroes event is a large and exciting event. The biggest drawback is you cannot monster exchange for any of the cards, and you must roll to acquire them. And 50% of the time, it won't be a Sin Dragon or a Key Hero. But at the same time, acquiring any of these Sin Dragons and Key Heroes is meaningful because there's no bad card in this event. You are going to have value or a use for each of them that you do roll, so it is definitely worth rolling. And you could do like 10, 15 rolls, and it's only 5 stones per roll, so it's a little bit cheaper as a whole. With that being said, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think it is worth rolling in? And if it is worth rolling in, who do you hope to roll, along with how many rolls you have budgeted? Either way, hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.